That's the half-back weaknesses.
No.
And we saw that, whatever pairing they could muster out of Mellor, Gilmore and Craven, whoever they could keep fit enough for long enough, just weren't good enough. Now, they've got some talented young kids around those positions, in the skill positions and stuff, but I'm still not sure that any of them are ready to step up and deliver consistently at the big stage behind what is not the strongest pack in the league. It's not a terrible pack, but it's not the strongest pack. I think they're gambling on the untried PNG brothers really to bolster that pack, and they have, on paper, I feel like they've got a slow and uninspiring first choice 3/4 line as well, with Stephen Marsh being one of your first choice wingers. I actually have Ryan Ince as my rising star, and I expect him to edge out him and Marsh and Arvan, two very slow players, in the reckoning as the season goes on. Of course, I have my key man for Reece Hambry. Everyone knows I've got a crush on Reece Hambry. I'm pretty certain I picked him in my dream team until he picks up what is becoming inevitable at his age, 32, an injury that'll keep him out for a bit of time.
Yeah.
And if young Ollie Ashall, all the hype and talent is there, but is he really going to be consistent at this level when he's never played a game at this level? And I'm a bit concerned about that. So I just really am worried for them. There you go.
Okay, well, sorry, Witness fans. We did get some of you in touch, though, some stalwarts of the Super League pod.
Yeah.
Paul O'Brien said it's going to be a tough season for the Vikings. Would like to see us finish in the top 8, but don't think we have the strength in depth. The middle 8s will be the toughest yet.
Jay Green.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Jay Green, he expects from Witness this year is not a lot.
There you go. Neil McEwen says Witness will struggle as it's been a mental off-season with Matthews' wife saying she's not moving to the UK in a week he was meant to fly here. So we used part of his wages to sign Keto Ortio. Then we get the awful news from PNG about his passing, so the town is shocked to say the least. Really missing size up front, but need a winger. Unsure if Mellor and Gilmore are going to work at 6 and 7, but Super Danny Craven will save us.
And Mark Butler says Witness grim survival, rinse and repeat. So he thinks obviously skin of the teeth stuff there. Mark's also Crusaders fan, 'cause he's from the North Wales area, and he thinks they'll narrowly miss on the League One playoffs.
Okay, which takes us to the Warrington Wolves, Mark, who finished 9th in Super League in the regular season and went on to finish top of the Super 8s to retain a place in Super League for this season and made it to the quarter-finals of the Cup. A lot of players in and out at Warrington to draw your attention to. Brad Dwyer has joined Leeds. Rhys Evans has gone to Leigh. Kurt Gidley has retired. Andre Savelio has headed down to play for Brisbane Broncos. Sam Wilde has gone across Cheshire to Widnes. Joe Westerman is playing for Toronto. Peta Hiku has joined the New Zealand Warriors. Ashton Sims has gone to Toronto. Will Dagger has gone to Hull KR. Ben Julien has returned to France with the Catalan Dragons. And Ben Pomeroy has just gone. I don't know if he's retired or what.
I think he might end up back in France.
Possibly so. He likes it down there, doesn't he? They've picked up Sitaleki Akaloa from the Penrith Panthers, Bryson Goodwin from South Sydney, Tyrone Roberts from the Gold Coast Titans, Ben Murdoch-Masilla from Salford Red Devils, and Mitch Brown from the Leigh Centurions. What do you reckon?
Yeah, so starting with the key man, it's Kevin Brown. I think he didn't really show enough form and consistency for Warrington last year, but he's going to be crucial to them because bringing in Tyrone Roberts, I don't think Tyrone Roberts last year didn't play all of his football in the halves, and I can't remember a time when I've seen him have a commanding game at half-back in his career, really. Certainly I can't count them on more than a couple of fingers if there are any out there.
Yeah.
So I think Kevin Brown's going to have to really show him around in terms of leading this team, and let Tyrone Roberts try and inject a bit of his skill and off-the-cuffness.
Yeah.
Rising star... they've not really named a huge squad, so there wasn't really many to go from. But I think someone who's gonna get game time with the loss of Brad Dwyer at the hooking position is young Morgan Smith, the halfback come hooker, who's going to be the interchange guy. Probably do 10 minutes either way of half time if Darryl Clark needs a spell. I actually think Darryl Clark's going to be brilliant this year, but his brilliance alone is very individual. His runs from dummy half is 10 metres a time, his 40-odd tackles without any misses, doesn't necessarily mean that the team's going to get over the line scoring tries, sadly.
No. We don't know that they're going to play the Tony Smith way now under Steve Price either.
I still think that the NRL way will see Darryl Clark be heavily involved in the game plan. In the regular season, I actually think they'll do quite well because they've actually, when you look man for man, got a pretty good competitive first 13 to 17 players in that squad compared to the rest of the league. So if they don't have injuries and stuff like that in the regular season, I've got them finishing in the top 4, probably 4th in that. But I don't think they'll maintain it. I don't think the squad size is good enough, and I just think that this new side might not have it all together enough for the Super 8s campaign. I've got them finishing 5th at the end of the season. I'm not sure about the cup.
Right.
It's the big turnaround and coaching in player and coaching staff at Warrington makes them hard to predict. I think that's why I've kind of got them floating around the top 4, but can't land on them being in there at the end of the at the end of the day. They've announced a pretty small squad, like I say, but there is plenty of quality and experience. I think, I don't know, things will be feeling positive because of a change-up and a change as good as the rest and stuff. So I do fancy them to bounce back and not worry about the bottom 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I was tempted to put them in the top 4, but I'm not going to.
Oh God, I don't think Warrington are going to be in the bottom 4. I've got them finishing 8th and staying 8th after the Super 8s. A lot of important established players from, admittedly a poor year, but established professionals from within that organisation have gone. Dwyer was important for them in terms of spelling. Darryl Clark, Kurt Gidley's retired, Joe Westerman's gone to Toronto, Ashton Sims has gone, Ben Julian have gone. Now, individual performances at different times of the season notwithstanding, these are important players to that group of people. And I am more and more unconvinced by Steve Price as a coach, based almost solely on his recruitment. And the fact that he doesn't inspire me in his look, doesn't look like a leader of men to me. I know that doesn't mean anything. But in the words of Frankie Boyle, he looks like he'll end his days being folded into a hold-all whilst screaming out his PIN number to me. I don't know if he can walk into a room and lead people. He's in the Steve McNamara bracket for me at the minute. He might be a very good technical coach, but I don't know if that's going to translate into leadership. And his recruitment, I don't want to call it lazy recruitment, but I do want to call it the sound of a barrel being scraped through the Southern Hemisphere, because Ben Murdoch-Massilla's decent World Cup notwithstanding, I don't know that Akaloa, Bryson Goodwin and Tyrone Roberts are necessarily the answer to a question other than, can you find me some average NRL players and see if they want to go in Super League? And it just smacks that for me, the recruitment. I would have been much happier if they'd named a bigger squad and wanted to blood some more young players and try and go about things that way. Saving grace for Warrington, Andrew Henderson as assistant coach will probably temper some of what Steve Price may or may not bring to the table in terms of his knowledge of the British game and his knowledge of how to motivate players, and the work that he did at London was tremendously successful. Key man for me, Kevin Brown, as you mentioned. Harvey Livette is my rising star.
Is it because he's got the same haircut as your daughter?
He's got no, he hasn't got curls, mate. He's a glorious ranger, and I think he'll do well under the floodlights at Warrington there. But I like his utility, and he comes in and he does a good job. And at times when Warrington needed someone to come in and fill gaps for injury, he did so admirably. And for a young man of 21, forgive me, that's impressive. So hopefully he'll get some more consistent game time this year and continue his development. But I think 8th, right? Just out, better than last year.
Hey, can't argue with that.
Can't argue with better than last year, can you? Which takes us on to Huddersfield Giants, Mike.
No, we haven't done the fans.
Oh no, we haven't, have we? Sorry.
So I'll start with Mike Dodd, who said his expectation for Warrington is to cut out the handling errors from last year and hopefully sneak into the top 4.
There you go. Lee Whitnell said to win the Challenge Cup, finish second, get to Old Trafford and lose to Saints. I'm due another agonising trip back from there, I think.
What, the lunatic asylum?
Jesus wept, yeah.
Flyer Joe said, because of our horrendous start to the campaign last time out, we were on the back foot from the off.
You shit after the off.
If we can get our
when did it get better? Middle eights.
If we can get our new coaching and playing personnel to gel quickly, hopefully we can get up the table early and bury the nightmare that was last year as soon as possible. I don't know if we have enough quality deep in our squad to challenge for a top 4 spot, but I'll take a decent cup run and secure a top 8 finish.
There you go. Callum Insall got in touch, name I'm unfamiliar with, so yeah, nice to briefly meet you, Callum. I expect a bigger and better season from the Wire. I believe last season was way below our usual standards. I expect big performances each week from Tyrone Roberts, Kevin Brown and Ben Murdoch-Masilla. I think we'll make the top 4 on losing the semis but win the cup.
Daniel Cartledge said, I think we can get to a Challenge Cup final and get into the top 4 if we don't have any major injuries.
I'm torn by that one. Get it? Torn, Cartledge.
Okay.
Sorry. Steve, the good news is that people don't have to put up with that shit for much longer. Steve McCulley said, better than last year. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, Tom Eckley said, I mean, it can't be worse. Gonna be that team no one realises is doing well and sneaks into the top 4.
John Knox says that they'll finish in 6th place.
Lee Percival says, I fancy Warrington to grab a top 4 spot, then go on to win the grand final. # always our year.
And Jess Trickett says that she expects Warrington to improve, so she agrees with me. Slight improvement.
Yeah, so
there you go. Takes us into down to the John Smith's mark for the Huddersfield Giants.
Yeah, where Super League was launched this season along with the women's game and all of the other competitions. But who was not going to be there was Sam Rapira, because he's been lost to the Toulouse Olympique. Nathan Mason has gone out to Lee Centurions. It appears to be a loan then. Mikey Woods out on loan. Isaac Farrell, Liam Johnson, Jared Simpson, all young players out on loan. Billy Hayes, don't know who he is, don't know why I've put him on the list. He's gone to Dewsbury Rams. All they've brought in is Adam Wallen from the Salford Red Devils and Colton Roche from the Bradford Bulls. Tom, last season they finished in 8th when all was said and done, and didn't do anything in the cup. In fact, had a bit of embarrassment to Swinton in the first round in that for them. Okay. So, how do you think they're going to go this time?
Right, well, key man for me, as he has been for many, many seasons for Huddersfield Giants, is Danny Brough, in a lot of ways, in terms of his performance and attitude, and actually just remaining on the field. I think that's all intrinsic to Huddersfield's success this year, and their rising star. I'm going to try and squeeze him under the barrier. For me, Jake Mamo. I know you don't particularly like him after, he was Mum's new boyfriend, wasn't he, for a period of time, but there was that sort of 8 or 9 games that he played when he came in at Huddersfield, when he got back from his first injury before he went off with his second one, where he looked absolutely worldy for them, and I think that's really encouraging. And I think the thing for Huddersfield this season is going to be keeping people fit. They've had a very stable off-season in terms of the ins and outs, some youngsters going out on loan, and Sam Rapira, who was probably coming down the bell curve a little bit in terms of his career. I'm not saying that they've made stellar recruitment in Adam Wall and Colton Roach, but obviously Rick Stone is happy with what he's got at his disposal, which is a solid group of players. They've got a pack that will stand up to anyone in the league, I think. A lot for Huddersfield depends on how their 1-7 perform. So how Danny Brough goes for them in terms of attitude and what they can produce in terms of feeding. I mean, they feed the monster in Jermaine McGilvray and he'll score. Jake Mamo brings X factor and some serious running. So the forwards are going to lay a platform for them, and they've got some depth in the forwards when you look at some of the size and power that they can bring on. So it's going to be about fitness and injuries, I think, for Huddersfield. If they can have a relatively injury-free season and ride those with a bit of luck, I can see them finishing sort of around the 5th or 6th mark. So I've plumped for 6th place. I think after the Super 8s come in and they start playing the teams above them and around them a bit more, they'll find that they come up against it and they might slip down to 7th. But and a reasonable cup run, I think, quarterfinals of the cup. So it could be it could be a good season for Huddersfield. And this is me at my sort of Huddersfield on average. So if things go well for them, that pack, it's a good looking pack, that. Ika Hifo, Akuma Tai, Mike Lawrence is just a tackling machine. Shannon Wakeman looks good when he's running with ball in hand, and they've got some class in guys like Dale Ferguson, Oliver Roberts.
not taking his missus to bars with his teammates is alright.
Well, look, he's a long way away from that nasty boy James, isn't he now? So he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. Plus his missus is probably Miss Huddersfield by default. So yeah, I think he should do fine. Paul Clough's an experienced forward as well, who comes in and offers some grunt to them as well. So I think the pack is really, really solid and will be, like I say, a match for anyone. Just need to see what they can do in the 3 quarters and the halves.
Yeah, so where have you got them?
6th and then 7th after the Super 8s.
So I've got them lower than that.
Right.
I've got them finishing 9th in the regular season.
Right.
And then top 3 probably first in the qualifiers. No dramas. But I think I'm looking at the ins and outs, and I don't think they've really particularly strengthened, which is a factor to me, because they were kind of also round last year. They didn't do much apart from that spell where Mamo was looking good. So I'm not sure with the changeover that they've actually improved enough. And that means 2018 depends almost entirely on what they get out of Jake Mamo. He's my key man for them.
Yeah.
For them and for my family moving on from traumatic times. He is my key man for them because he looks so exciting in those games. But one, he has to stay fit, And two, that has to last over a whole season rather than a small burst of games when he was an unknown quantity, given that many people wouldn't have seen much of him, and what they'd have seen of him wouldn't quite have been as freewheeling as what we got, and exciting as what we got.